right. Welcome to the CEO podcast. Today I have Allie Ninfo here, and I am so stoked. You don't even know. I was introduced to Allie through a very good mutual friend of ours, Krista, who was on, I think, episode 2 of the CEO podcast. So for those of you that have been here from the beginning, you'll know Krista. And Allie is an intuitive and has her own podcast and has an array of amazing courses available. So welcome. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. And I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Brittany. I'm so excited to be here. I am an intuitive energetic healer. Whenever someone asks me what I do, I'm like, I just give them my Instagram and I'll go, you'll figure it out. Because it's such like a funny thing to try and like sit there and explain to someone. But essentially what I am doing is I have been a medium as long as I can remember since I've been young. And I started to really learn to hone in, tap in on those intuitive and medium tendencies or gifts, if you want to call it that, which we all have, by the way. I'm not special, but I just took the time to really hone in on them, really understand how to use them, how they work. And I essentially now am able to help see a soul where it's at, see where it wants to go, and help it get there. And I am using then neuroscience tools and neurolinguistic programming to reprogram the brain to then help people reprogram their electromagnetic field, which I like to call our creator field, because our creator field is kind of one big concoction of our belief systems and what we believe to be true. And that's what we're going to create out in the world. So I'm able to read someone's creator field, read the holes in it, see what's missing in there from allowing them to create and get what they want in life. And I'm able to read higher self, see where higher self wants to go, see what the soul's here to do. And then I bring in like the science and the neuroscience tools to get people's brains reprogrammed in supporting them to actually creating whatever it is that they desire to create.
Well, let me tell you, because I have literally been binging your podcast and putting some of your tools to work in the past couple of weeks. And it is just like everything you say, I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. So there's just so like, it's really resonating. And the reason I wanted to have you on is because I think it's so important for entrepreneurs to have some intuitive tools that they can use, because so much of what we do, no matter what field we're in, we're constantly kind of checking in with our gut. And for me, it's like I'll meet people for the first time as clients, and like, you have that little like feeling where you're like, okay, they're going to be amazing, or like red flag, red flag. And people talk about it all the time in regular kind of CEO type of positions, is like, kind of where you're at when you meet people. And I think it's so important to kind of understand where that's coming from and tune into that, and understand also just where your higher self wants to go, so that you are on that path. Like, we become entrepreneurs to be able to have that freedom. But if we're not following our soul's path, it starts to feel more like work and less like play. So that's really where I wanted to talk to you and get some insight on how people can start to tap into that, and also kind of just how they even start to connect with that in the first place for anybody who's not on that spiritual path already.
Yeah, of course. So intuition is really cool because we all have it. It's kind of like, how we have the same qualities as our parents. We maybe look like them in certain ways, act like them in certain ways. Well, why wouldn't we have then the same qualities as our parent energy, which is source, God, universe, whatever word you use, whatever resonates with you. And there is a universal law called the universal law of free will. So meaning that source, the universe, cannot go against our free will of what we believe to be true. And why source created that universal law is to show us that we are just extensions of source. We essentially have similar powers, similar attributes to source, because we were created from source. And so source was kind of like, okay, I want you to understand that you have just as much power to have the intuition to create what you want to create, design the life that you want to design, that I'm going to actually create a law that I'm going to keep my hands out of your life so that you can learn that you actually have source within you. So we all have intuition, and whether you have a story of seeing it and understanding it when you were little or not, you probably do have stories of seeing it and understanding when you were little. You're just not realizing. It's kind of like if someone ever walks into a room and you immediately know what they're going to be like, and then you end up being right later. That's your intuition. It's also if someone ever says something and then, but 2 seconds prior to them saying something, you were thinking that exact same thing. that's intuition. You were hearing their thoughts. If you are really sensitive to movies and you find yourself like getting so emotionally caught up and involved in movies, that's your intuition. You're literally tapping in and reading the energy of the character in the movie, in the role in the movie. So we're using it every day, whether we, realize it or not. And ways that can help your life is it can expedite so many things in your life. Like, let's say you're a CEO and you're wanting to hire someone on. You can literally ask intuitive questions. Am I going to be happy I hired this person? Is this person going to make their business profitable? Are we going to get along long term? You can ask all these different questions that allow you to bypass like the trial and error of life. So whenever I hire anyone onto my team, I am literally asking all these intuitive filter questions, because then I can just hire the perfect person and knowing what I'm going to get versus being kind of surprised and taking long. So using intuition is like, in my opinion, the hack to everything, because you can take what could take 5-10 years and speed it up to 1 year. You could take what could be a 6-month hiring process, speed it up to 1 month. When I hired my COO, I had over 400 people apply. Out of those 400 people, I knew exactly which one she was going to be. And I entertained it, and I went through a hiring process of about 10 different people that I picked, but I knew the whole entire time it was going to be her, and it was. And so when I was able to just easily pick her, easily see through everything else, easily not have to like fight with myself or take other people's opinions, our intuition is kind of like the fast track to life. Another reason why any CEO should care about intuition is if you are in a place of running a business and having a business, which you are if you're a CEO, your creator field is so important. In our creator field, science terms for that is our electromagnetic field. And what that is it's the field that radiates off our body. And it is one big concoction of the thoughts we think daily, what we believe to be true, and the actions that we take on a daily basis. And that solely determines what we are going to create back in our life. If we are being judgmental on ourselves, we are going to create other people being judgmental to us. If we have holes in our belief systems of money, of, oh, like, I don't know if I can make that, or like wanting even too much money. If we want money, that's a big hole in our creator field because we don't want to be in a place of want. So if we're unable to read our creator field without the right tools, we're kind of just winging life. We're kind of like, oh, let's see if I can make this amount of money. Let's see. And maybe you're even doing all the manifesting tools, but you're not knowing exactly what holes are in your creator field, what belief systems are missing for you to actually create and actually get what you're desiring. Then you're just kind of spinning your wheels over and over again and wondering why stuff isn't working. So anyone who is running their own company or business, intuition is the fast track to growing it, to hiring the right people, to getting yourself in the right places at the right times, to endless opportunity and possibility. I would 10 out of 10 recommend for sure.
Yes. Okay. So I've like so many questions going through my brain while you're talking. You're probably like, why is this chick staring at me like this? But I'm like, no, I've got to like do it all. So one thing I know that I've listened in my binging, I have listened to you tell us about how to kind of hone in on the intuition. So if you want to go through that, we can, but really I'll try to be super layman's terms for everyone who's here. So basically you ground yourself, you connect to source, you connect to earth energy, and then you feel in your body where you get a yes or a no question. So I found that so interesting when I did it. I was listening to your podcast and I tried it in myself. So my no was like all tight in my diaphragm. And then my yes was like tingles all the way up my head. And it's so funny because now I'm starting to notice it in other areas when like something happens and I get that tingle or like, and I'm just like, okay, that's it. So I'm starting to like clock where that's happening in my life, which I'm finding like really interesting and insightful. But then on the flip side, like when you talk about our creator field, the last year's been quiet. We have high interest rates here. It's been like not a lot of work coming in. And the past 2 years before that were like wicked awesome years. And I've started to notice, like I kept saying stuff like, oh, work slow, work slow, work slow. And then I'm like, I'm creating work being slow by consistently putting out this information into my creator field where it's like I'm putting it out there and it's all coming back. So I'd like to just touch on that. Maybe if you can share like a specific example of where we can fill those holes in our creator field for those of us that are possibly doing maybe a bit of negative self-talk or possibly putting something out there, even in the things that we're thinking that we're not quite realizing is creating those gaps.
Yes. So we have different parts of our creator field. And one of them is like our emotional thought to broadcast part. And then another one is emotional ingredients part. And you know how, like, to bake a cake, you need all the right ingredients and then you make the perfect cake. And if you miss one of the ingredients, then the cake's not going to like taste very good, or it's not going to be like the cake, the full cake that you want to eat. It's kind of the same thing. In order to create what we want to create in life, we need the right concoction of emotional ingredients programmed into our field. So, how I do this is, and if you're new to this, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go, okay, what do I want? And what would I have to believe to be true to not get that? So, for example, what do I want? Maybe, you want to write a best-selling book, a New York best time selling book. What would you have to believe about yourself for that to not happen? Well, I'd have to believe that I'm not a good writer. I'd have to believe my ideas aren't good enough. I'd have to believe that people aren't going to understand what I'm saying. I'd have to believe that I'm not the best at what I do. So you think about like what you would have to believe for it to not work and for it to not be successful. Then you're going to take all those beliefs and you're going to flip them. So instead of, oh, I'd have to believe that I'm not a good writer, you're going to flip it to, I'm the most incredible writer that anyone's ever seen. And now you start to get these new ingredients that we can program into new belief systems. How we program something into a new belief system is not by affirmations. Affirmations will never work because affirmations are just consciously, logically talking to yourself. But the problem is that our conscious and our like subconscious, they don't really communicate. They don't really speak the same. And the subconscious is what's connected to the emotions, the neural pathways in our brain, the fight or flight systems, which is connected to our creator field and what we are creating and manifesting. So the problem with affirmations is we're going, oh my God, I'm so rich, or I'm the best writer. I'm the best writer you could ever hear from. I'm the best writer. But then your subconscious is going, no, you're not, bitch. Like you're fucking suck. And it gives you all these reasons why you suck, right? And you're like, and you end up finding yourself in like a deeper hole than you even started before you did the affirmation. So what we want to do with these brain reprogramming statements, I call them, these new ingredients that we just got, is we've got to emotionally connect to them. How do we do that? Well, our brain likes things that are familiar. So our brain is constantly scanning our day every day to prove what we believe to be true to ourselves. That can either work for us or it can work massively against us. If I'm trying to write a best-selling book, but I believe I'm a bad writer, my brain's going to now scan my everyday life of ways to prove back to me that I'm a bad writer. It's going to go beep, 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 beep. Oh, this person didn't read what you wrote on Instagram, so you're a bad writer. Beep, 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 beep. And it's going to just make up these stories. And we over exaggerate stories and memories in our head too. So like something could have happened when you were 5 years old. And when you were 5, you got up in front of the class, and in front of the class, you were sharing an essay you wrote, and you heard a kid laugh. Maybe the kid wasn't even laughing at you, but you decided the kid was laughing at you because of what you wrote, and then you deemed yourself a bad writer. And so now when we get emotional, that thing that happens that we get emotional with, it becomes a core memory. Okay, emotional in a way that's helping us or emotional in a way that's hurting us. Either way, it becomes a core memory. Now we have neural pathways that are being built now in our brain, and neural connections that are being built in our brain that are now looking to prove that more to be true. Well, the more we look for it, the more we believe it, the more it's going to be true. So now, again, you're 7 and you take home an essay and your mom yells at you because you wrote it bad. And then you're 10 and then you write another thing and then that's bad too. And each time that happens, the neural pathway gets more and more solidified. And a piece of our light body, our energetic body, also breaks off and it gets stuck in all of those times. So now we're not only now having our neural pathways like fucked, we're now also missing pieces of our light body that we need fully to be able to manifest and create the things that we want. So how we reverse this is there's the energy work portion, right, of like getting back the missing pieces of our light body, doing like a soul recovery is what I call it. But then the second part is we've got to rewire the neural pathways to new beliefs. We've got to get our brain scanning for things that are actually going to benefit us and things we actually want versus scanning for the opposite. How we do that is we take these new energetic ingredients that we just got for the best-selling book, right? I'm the best author, I'm the best writer, no one can do it how I do it, I'm the secret ingredient to what people need, whatever it is. And we then start to, my favorite tool is I make notes in my phone and I title them these ingredients. And then I bullet point little tiny micro moments every single day, all day of how this is true. I start to train my brain to look for this and find this in my life and prove it to be true. Because you're not lying to yourself, you're not gaslighting yourself. It is true because there's a universal law of balance, and the universe has to be in balance at all times. So for just as much as you're quote a bad writer, you're that much a good writer. You're just not seeing it. Your perception's so off because of the way that your trauma has been built up until now. So you've got to start to train your brain to find all the little ways. And I mean micro moments. Like when I train people on money, I'm like, clock finding the penny on the street. Bullet point that you could put $5 in your cart a day for gas. Bullet point that you have food. Bullet point that you're staring at your $1,000 phone right now. And whatever you're wearing, calculate that up. And so tiny little micro moments. The problem is that people wait for something to feel something. So they go, oh, I'm going to wait till I'm the best-selling author to feel like I am. Well, that's not going to work. That's not going to work unless that was something your soul signed up for to get a bigger lesson. So the other misconception is that like everyone who has something that's cool, they manifested it or they worked hard for it. That's not true either. The guy on the private jet with the billions of dollars with all the girls could have got that as a sole choice so that he could realize the private jet, the millions of dollars, and all the girls was never going to heal my self-image wound with my mom, or was never going to heal the wound of my dad, right? And then that could be a sole plan of getting these things to then realize that. If you want to get these things and not have to have shit hit the fan after, or not have to feel worse somewhere else in your life, this is how you do it, by intentionally creating and intentionally manifesting and programming things into your creator field. So what I do is I put all these ingredients as notes in my phone, and then I bullet point and clock all the micro moments of how that is true every day. And what happens when we actually prove it to ourselves with using an actual memory of something that actually happened, we then start to believe it. We then start to shift our subconscious, start to suffocate the old neural pathways of going the opposite. We start to build new neural pathways, new synaptic connections in the brain, which then translate to filling in those holes and gaps in the creator field that at one point would not allow us to create what we want. But now we're filling in those holes, and that will then inevitably allow us to then get the book deal, get the thing. Now, why this works so well is because we can actually speed things up. So let's say in your soul contract, you were supposed to get a book deal in 10 years. You're like, fuck that, I want to get one in 1 year, right? The only reason you would get one in 10 years is for you to learn the lessons and gain the ingredients that you would need to be able to energetically hold the density in a good way of the book deal. But with intuition, you can go, okay, what are the missing pieces in the creator field? What would make someone say no to this now? And you can find all these ingredients, you can connect to them now, then you can just get the book deal without having to hear no's. The only reason you would hear no's is maybe the first no, you're like, fuck. And then the second no, you're like, fuck. And then the third no, you're like, fuck. But then by the fourth no, you're like, damn it, I'm finally going to believe in myself. And the fifth no, you're like, oh, I'm finally going to believe that I'm the secret ingredient to what people need. Then the seventh no, you're like, fine, I'm finally going to believe I'm the best writer. All these no's are going to get you to those ingredients anyway. But it's like, do you want to take 10 years to get to the ingredients, or do you want to be able to use your intuition to just pull them all in now without having to take so long? So that's one of my favorite things to do is people come, they tell me what they want and they're not getting it. And I'm like, okay, let me look at your creator field. And I just look at their creator field, and 0 to 100%, I've trained myself to intuitively measure how much they're rooted to these ingredients. So if I would look in on someone and be like, you're only rooted 9% to the fact that you're the best author there is. So that's a problem. So we've got to get you rooted at about 90% or higher. How we do that is we go and prove the little micro moments that are happening every single day.
I find that so interesting. And everybody listening, you need to listen to this episode multiple times because Allie talks really fast, which is awesome, but you need to listen and you need to clock it, take notes. So what I love about it is I followed manifestation for a very long time. And I've done Catherine's course, MBA, which is fantastic. I've done a few other like smaller courses and just like followed teachers for a long time, but I've never heard it worded in that way. And that was what was really resonant to me, was that I felt like finally someone handed a tool versus like trying to like go in and like all of the shadow work and everything's all very important. And I guess this goes back to like, you always say everybody's the most awesome at what they do. And I love that because I tell like everybody listening, like my students, like nobody can teach what you teach the way you teach it. And the way you say something might resonate with someone, and all of a sudden they get it. And it's like, that's why you're the best at what you do, or someone else is the best at what they do. And it's like, if you're not following multiple teachers, you're not always going to be getting all of the information that you need. And I guess it's kind of like maybe a metaphor for your ingredients. It's like, I need a little Allie, I need a little Catherine, I need a little, Marie Forleo back in the day, like all these little pieces that we're going to take. But I really think that those small steps, they're just so doable. Anybody can take that gap and find those ingredients and start to see those little things. Like, I'll use a red car, for example. Like, you want a red car and you don't believe you can have a red car because you've always had black cars and red cars are too cool and you just can't have one. So then you start to see, maybe a ton of red cars start coming into your life every day, and you're starting to like see it. And you're like, okay, well, if that person can have a red car, like, why can't I have a red car? So that's probably like the worst example ever. But I just love that you can start seeing it and clocking all the little moments, and that they don't have to be big things. Like, you can find the smallest thing to be a proof piece of what you're looking for.
Yes. And that's the thing, is we wait for these big fucking things, and it's like, no, it's everywhere right now. So even if someone wants to reprogram, trusting people, right? Because what's funny with trusting people is we think closing our heart off to people or not trusting people is keeping us safe. It's actually doing the opposite, because we don't create what we want, we create how we feel. So we think, oh, if I like am tiptoeing and making sure that like I'm like no one's taking advantage of me, then I'll be good. No, you're actually now manifesting people into your world and reality that you can't trust. So what you actually want to do is you actually want to trust everything and everyone, right? And you want to prove that to yourself. And clients will be like, well, how do I do that? And I'm like, okay, well, when's the last time you went out and ordered food? And I'll be like, oh, yesterday I got dinner. And I go, did you die? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so you trusted the chef to not poison you and you ate the food. You trusted that there was not poison in the food and you ate the food. And I'm like, and they're like, oh yeah. And then I'm like, did you get home that night safely? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, did you drive home? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, did you trust yourself to drive your car to get home safely? They're like, yeah, I guess I did. We're doing these things all the time. We're just missing them because we're
Right.
so focused on the big thing. But we can't get the big thing or create the big thing until we are already doing it and having it. That's the thing. We have to already have it, like, and not just joke ourselves into having it, like making ourselves think we do logically, but actually feel like we have it. And then we no longer want it, and then we get it.
I've done this work for a long time. So to me, I'm like, obviously. But I think for people that maybe aren't familiar with it, that is so hard to understand. And like, the best way I can try to make it make sense, if this isn't a world you're used to, is like, where were you 5 years ago and where are you now? And what in your life has changed in that moment? And was it not believable 5 years ago and now it's believable? Like, 5 years ago, I don't think I would have looked at the house I'm in and said, oh, I have a beautiful home that I did top to bottom and everything's renovated, and I also have this much money in the bank. 5 years ago, that would have been insane. And now it's not. It's here. I have it all. I can look at it every day. So I'm like, 5 years from now in the future, this could literally be like everything I wanted is already there. So then how do I start to notice those small moments of all of those things that I want starting to happen? And it's really just about being observant, and also I use gratitude as a tool a lot, but like being grateful for those tiny, tiny pieces of proof that you can find. Like, you want to feel abundant. Okay, what are you abundant in? I'm abundant in air. I'm abundant in fresh water. I can literally turn the tap on and like fill up jugs and jugs and jugs of water endlessly. I'm abundant in sleep. I am an entrepreneur. If I wanted to take a day off and sleep, I would. I mean, I don't, but I could.
Yeah, 100%.
You're starting to feel like maybe you want to change your body. It's like, okay, well, can I do exercise today? Yeah, I fucking can. So I'm going to go do that. And like, I'm so grateful that I have arms that work and legs that work and a core that works, and like just all those tiny moments. And I think it's such a great tool just to start to implement, even if you're not like focused on one thing, just to be more present and be more appreciative and just enjoy your life day to day. Because if you're always working for that next thing, you're only in the present moment.
100%, 100%. And one of the things that can kill someone's creator field is wanting something. If your levels of want are really high, I said this the other day, I go, you can kiss it goodbye. And I was like, wait, I rhymed. But yeah, if your levels of one are really high, the thing is getting pushed away from you. Like think about like even in dating, if you are going up to someone, you're like, oh my God, I really want to date you. Like, oh my God, I love your eyes. Oh my God. The other person can be like, what the fuck? Like they're going to push them away. Right. But if you are neutral, if you're like, here's my belief system. I know I have these beliefs if I'm worthy of a good man, blah, 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 all the ingredients. And then I'm neutral about whoever the potential prospect is, then that is going to attract them to you. But if you have any kind of want, people can feel that, or things, or money. Money holds a consciousness too. Everything in this world, this water bottle holds a consciousness, everything holds a consciousness. So things can feel that. And as much as you want it, that thing then has to that much not want you because of the universal law called the law of opposing forces. And then this gets misconstrued because then people ask me like, well, shouldn't I want money? Because I don't want to like write down the bad things about money because that would kill me manifesting money. I'm like, no, no, no. If you want money so bad and you have it on this pedestal, you're out of balance. And neutrality is like what Source would call love, like complete love. When you're just completely seeing the neutral and neutrality in everything, you're completely seeing all the positives, all the negatives in everything. And so when we're out of balance in that, then our creator field gets all wonky. So we've got to get ourselves not wanting the thing we want. And because of the law of balance, nothing in this universe is fully positive or negative, fully good or bad. This universe is built off of polar opposites, hot, cold, good, bad, like truth, lies. We're in a polar opposite universe. Nothing is fully good or fully bad. Everything has both. So just the amount of great things the money can bring you, it can bring you the equal amount of like annoyances, of things that are annoying, of things you don't want. So it's balancing out that scale and getting yourself to a place of like, actually, I'm good. I don't want it. I have a belief system about how I'm worthy of the $5 billion a year, the $10 million a year, and how I'm the best of the best to make that, and how I'm the perfect person for it, and whatever. Really understood the want part of the creator field. When I tell you, I fucking like quantum leaped just about every area in my life because I would just get myself to not want what I thought I wanted. And then it would start to happen so, so quick.
It's so true. And I feel like being in the neutral position, it's like nothing's opposing if you're neutral, right? So
Yes.
you can kind of move up and move down. And you're absolutely right. Everything that you could possibly want, there's reasons to not want it as well. So if you can see both sides of the coin, if you can have that fully rounded perspective on everything that you want and don't want, like maybe you want an extremely successful career, but that also takes a lot of time. And that's also, you know, you're not going to have time for other things that you might really enjoy doing if you have that. So it's like you have to see both sides and therefore, you know, create a neutral place so that things can start to come in.
100%.
So we're getting close to our time because I like to keep it short and sweet. But tell us, you have so many amazing courses going on, and I know you just created Evergreen Unfucked, which was really cool to see because I was looking at it the other day and I'm like, God, it's like it's not open right now. Like this is bullshit. So when I saw,
like everyone was like, you need to open it. I'm like, okay, me and my team were like, we're getting bullied enough. Let's just open it. We're gonna make it evergreen.
yeah, you're like, I can't deal with all these emails and people yelling at me anymore.
I know. I'm like, I'm done. I give in. I give in.
So tell us a little bit about that, and like if you have like a Coles notes, like your couple courses you have available, and like who should take what.
Yes, yes. So we have Unfuck Yourself Academy. That one is a 24-week program where essentially I give you what took me 9 years to do, and I just put it in 24 weeks. And and it's basically you go through just a full transformation because you can't really, for a full transformation, you can't really have one of these things without the other. So we start out with massive self-image healing. So getting you from like imposter syndrome, beating yourself up, comparison, judging yourself, to fully seeing all of the incredible qualities and attributes about your soul and all of your actual potential on a soul level, which you would be shocked how much we all, not you, but like anyone maybe listening might be shocked how much we all have, right? Then from there, we go into a phase where we are trauma limiting belief healing. Because just like I said, even if someone laughs at you when you're 5 years old and you automatically now think you're a bad speaker or you're a bad writer, now that can follow you. But what's funny is the things that our soul chooses for the trauma or limiting beliefs we go through are the things our soul is actually the best at and will thrive and excel at. So it chooses those traumas because because of the law of balance, in order to thrive and excel so much at one thing, we've had to feel the complete opposite at some time in our life. So it will choose, it's like, oh, I want this person to be the most confident, like be one of the most confident people in the world. Well, this soul is going to pick a lot of scenarios in childhood that's going to make them feel like a piece of trash. So then the soul can start to learn, shift, heal, grow through it. They can access that full confidence. So we go through a whole trauma limiting belief section to heal any of those things, from that kind of trauma to sexual abuse trauma, physical trauma, because I've been through it all. So we go through that whole thing. Then we have 6 weeks in there of intuition training, which we talked about why that is so essential earlier. And then we have a creator field creation / manifesting phase, where I wanted that phase to be something, because you hear everyone talk about manifesting and everyone has incredible things to say. I wanted that phase though to be something that you've never heard before. And so I pulled in some source truths on manifesting that maybe have been missed out in the world. And that is what is in phase 4 in there. So we have a great time in there. Then we have intuition courses, which is where you learn how to tap into your own intuition. You can do health and body reads on yourself. You can channel health and fitness plans for your perfect ideal body and health goal. Because there's so many people out there that are telling you, eat meat, don't eat meat. You know what I mean?
I was just going to be like, hold on, wait, we didn't even talk about energetic boob jobs, but we have to have another episode because those tatas are amazing. I'm like,
we got glow.
I need to do this.
That is in the glow formula. And that is, I have to say, glow formula is like one of my favorites. It's a full self-image healing, but then we also go into how to manipulate the energy on your body. Energetic Botox. You could not pay me enough money to put Botox in me. So I'm like, I got to figure out another way. And so we talk about that in there. That's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah. When I'm watching your stories, I'm like, bullshit. There's no way that girl doesn't have Botox.
I swear on anything. You can ask anyone I know. I have zero Botox.
Like, I hate you a little bit, just a little bit.
But anyone can do it. I'm not special. I'm not that anyone can do it. It's literally just working with and understanding the source science, energetic laws of the universe. Like, for example, wrinkles up here are a physical manifestation of being constantly worried of how other people are perceiving you. So if you're worried about people perceiving you,
I have the fucking Grand Canyon up here. My whole life. Yeah. What are they thinking
I don't even
about me?
I literally don't even see them. So I think maybe
good. I think my camera's dirty. Oh, it's just wild. But yes, sorry, you were in the middle of something. I got distracted. The boobs distracted me. Just
I like people also think I've had a boob job. I never have. Like, it's just energetic ingredients. It's the same thing. And you can manipulate the energy in your body, just like you can manifest and manipulate the energy outside of you. You can do the same thing on your body. So yeah, that's glow formula. We have intuition courses. We have, oh gosh, what else do we have?
fuck dark forces. That's a new one, which is so cool. I just extended my Zoom because I'm like, I need more time.
Amazing. Yes. Oh my God. You could keep me here forever. So I'll keep going. So just cut me off whenever. But yeah, we have fuck dark forces, which it's wild. I mean, if we're not clearing and recovering our energy on a daily basis, about 97% of our thoughts are not our own.
That blew my mind when you said that. I was just like, I need help.
It is like, wild. And like, help me.
Who's there? I don't know.
I know. Well, I mean, think about it. Like, if you're around someone and they're crying and you're not even sad and they're crying, you start to cry. I mean, we are constantly taking on others' energy. But the problem is that we're not then getting it off and we're not getting ours back. And so now we're missing pieces after piece after piece after piece after piece of our energy.
That's what I wanted. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you again. But when you said our light body gets stuck in our neural pathways, like, so I'm sorry, what? Like, are there parts of me missing? I'm worried now.
Totally. Any time we have any kind of a limiting belief or something, that first initial thing happened. Like, if you go skip a stone in a lake, or you throw a rock into a lake, there's a first initial kind of plop, then there's like the ripples that keep going out. That's kind of like what happens. So when we go through something that's limiting or traumatic, like let's say you were young and like mom was really hard on you, and so one time she said that you could never be good at something, right? You can never be good at soccer. I'm just making this up. You never be good at soccer, right? You suck. So that's the first initial stone throw. Well, now you got so emotional at this belief, at this thing that happened, that now it becomes a core memory. And when that happens, a piece of our light body, our energetic body, that gets pulled off of us and is staying in that scenario. Now, each time we now then feel like we're not good enough, another piece, another piece, another piece, another piece. And all of these things can be recovered energetically. It's just, we're not being taught this. And so that's a lot of what we do in Fuck Dark Forces is there's a part of just recovering your energy from all of those things so that you can actually fully function. I mean, look at yourself and all you've done in your life with part of your energy. Imagine the things you could do with all of your energy back from all of those situations.
It's funny because I was talking to Krista about this the other day. We had dinner last week and we were chatting about like all your stuff because I was like, I'm fangirling hard, like big time. She's like, no, it's amazing. But we were talking about that because I recently left like a very long-term, not, I don't want to say relationship. I'm married to a Justin, by the way.
No, I love the Justins.
I know. Well, I mean, they can be pretty annoying, but yes, for the most part, they're great. But it was a coach student relationship that I'd been in since I was like 6 years old. And there's just so much energy still there. And I said to her, like, I just want to like get that back. I just feel like I've left a lot on the table and there's like a lot, like basically I was like, I need to do cord cutting. Like but it's like, I've done the cord cutting, but like, I still feel like there's like all this stuff there. And I was having a really hard time with it, but that makes so much sense now that you say that we actually like leave pieces. Cause that's what it feels like. I feel like I've done the cord cutting, but I'm like, why, like, what is happening? Like, why do I still feel this like pull and this like yuckiness? And it's like, there's pieces of me still there. I don't like it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. The cord cutting, think about it, it doesn't work because there's a cord, but if you just cut the cord, your energy's still there and their energy's still in you. Cutting the cord doesn't change that. So what we do is we get the energy that's not ours out of us, give it back to where it belongs, get the energy that is ours out of them, clean it, clear it, charge it, get it back to like good for us, bring it back to us, and then cut the cord. And that's like the proper energy recovery, because if you're just cutting the cord, you're immediately getting corded back in because you still have their energy and they still have yours.
Which makes so much sense. Like that is just like, it's like, yes, of course, that makes sense. So that when she kind of explained that to me, I was like, oh my God, okay, yes, that makes complete sense. And like, I get it. So I think that's really interesting. And like, I listened to some ghost podcasts too, because I love that shit. And there's one where one of the stories was that like this soul like fractured so badly from trauma that like the resonating energy of like this ghost is actually just a fraction of this soul that like was so fractured that like part of it stayed. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense because like if we're constantly leaving pieces of ourselves all over the place, like at some point there's not going to be a lot left, or maybe we leave a large piece somewhere where there was a big traumatic event. So I don't know, like I just like see them coming in like all over the place and I'm like, okay, all coming together.
Yes. Yeah. That's such a good example of that. 100%.
Yeah. So very interesting, but I think, I don't know, like, I'm like, okay, I have to take all of these. How am I going to put all of these into play and also do my job? And I'm creating my course right now. So I'm like, I'll have time. I'll find time.
Let's have like 4 different things going on. It's fine.
Yeah, it's all good. That's how I live every day.
I understand. Yeah, that's good. That's how you're built.
Yes. So how much of your light body can you survive without, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I mean, survive, you can probably survive by barely, like deathbed on 7% of your light body. That's like deathbed situation. So to give you kind of an example, someone who is, so we get our light from source, and someone who is an atheist, so meaning it doesn't matter if you believe source is like a pink ladybug in the sky, as long as you just believe there's something bigger than you, right? That's all it is. It's not like the Christian religious thing. It's just as long as you believe there's something bigger than you out there. then you're getting full light from source. But because source can't go against our free will, what we believe to be true, if somebody is full on atheist, like literally does not believe there's anything else out there at all, they're only functioning at 31%. Their light body is only functioning at 31%. And that's 31% being the highest, meaning that that's not even including the pieces they're missing from their trauma and their limiting beliefs and other things.
Right.
So I don't know if I've never met a full-blown atheist, so I don't know if you have or anyone listening has, but even like the kind of atheists like questioning life that I've met, they're not fully you just see it, there's something missing. They don't have like a zest for anything really, or life, and you just see that something's missing, some kind of passion or joy, whether it could be joy anywhere with anything, but you just see that it's missing. That's kind of just to give you like a gauge. But I've even had it where like the other day, like I'm on a walk and I'm so exhausted. I want to fucking punch everyone. I'm like so annoyed. And for no reason, right? Whenever I'm annoyed for no reason, like that's just not like me. So I know I'm like, okay, oh my God, I forgot to do an energy recovery. So I do one every day from dark energy, from other people, from everyone I'm teaching, from the sessions I'm doing. And I forgot to do one from all of those things. And so I'm like walking like half of myself. I do the energy recovery and I'm like, oh, just bopping around, buzzing like a little bee, and it's just wild, like the difference when we're clearing our energy versus when we're not. And so we really, in order to access our soul's fullest potential and greatest gifts and our full creation manifesting powers, our full potential, we really do want to make sure all pieces of our light body are back, because that is key to being able to do that. And pieces of our light body, we think we're physical beings, but we're not. My hands look like they're touching, but they're not. If you take a microscope, you zoom in, they're going to be separate. We're just made of subatomic particles, protons, neutrons, that our light body is a part of creating, right? So if we keep missing pieces of our light body is in charge of creating our physical body. So what happens is, let's say we keep closing our heart, we keep not trusting, we keep closing our heart over and over again, 20, 30, 40 years. Well, now our light body heart might be only functioning at like 17%. And that means that over a long period of time, our actual heart, our physical heart, is going to start to have physical problems. And that's how ailments happen in the body. And so it's also important to get pieces of your light body back because of health reasons, because if they're gone for too long, for too much time, now our physical health is going to start to also have problems.
Very interesting. And absolutely, like I've seen it in friends and family. I had a good friend of mine and my grandmother both had kidney cancer the same year. And my one friend who's very spiritual, her father had just passed prior to that. And like our healer lady we see was like, oh, well, like it's all the trauma from losing your dad. But it's also I think all of the energy put out into caring and everything like that. Like I think she probably lost a lot of her light body through having to care for someone she loved so much who was sick and who was failing, and then it all kind of manifested into this like physical ailment. And my grandmother there was a lot of like emotional abuse over her like marriage, and then my grandfather died, and then all of a sudden she's got this kidney cancer, and it's just like there's something there, just a little, like you start to see it. It's wild.
For sure. And that makes sense because cancer is deep, deep, deep anger and resentment over a long period of time. And that's not looked at, that's suppressed, right? Don't be afraid if you get angry, everyone listening. Like it's okay. It's suppressed over years and years and years, anger and resentment. And then kidneys, like part of the body's filtration system. So it's like they weren't able to like filtrate their own emotions and their own thoughts because they felt like either in the abusive relationship scared to do so. They had to keep everything to themselves, or they felt like they were too busy taking care of other people's emotions and thoughts. Like in the other scenario where they just are angry that they were never able to like fully express their own emotions and thoughts and like be able to filter through them and not have to like have them stuck in their body and unexpressed for so long. So it makes total sense.
That's really interesting. Really interesting. I mean, I have so many questions. I could talk to you for 1,000 years. Sorry.
I could be here for 1,000 years. I just geek out on this stuff all day long.
I mean, how could you not? It's just so interesting. And like, just so much more interesting than like daily life. So I love it. Give us a quickie on how you got to where you are today from a business owner perspective. I've heard the story on your podcast, but for everybody listening, you basically have grown this business in the last like 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, kind of from like
Four at this
four.
point. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell us kind of what were those, like, let's call it like in the 3D world, what are those major milestones you hit, and kind of what would you say the biggest part of getting to that was?
Okay, so major milestones, I'd say I lived my life just in negatives in my bank account, like negative, always negative. Like I got evicted from an apartment, would get my car towed because I couldn't pay the bills, like would have to dig for quarters in my car to pay for gas to get home. Like, and this was all living in LA. And I remember when it was about after like 4 or 5 years of really training my intuition, really healing myself, and then really seeing results in my own life and just seeing results of people who I've just like did reads on, just for free or whatever. I was like, fuck, like I just got this passion to start like a business in it. And this was in 2019, I'd say mid 2019. Well, I got like a client here or there at the time. It was like $75 for a reading. They were coming to my apartment that was furnitureless because I couldn't afford furniture, just sitting on my floor in my apartment. I was like, yeah, here we are. And they probably some spiritual reason I didn't have furniture. I'm like, no, I just can't afford furniture. Like literally someone was like, oh my God, I love that you don't have furniture. Like they thought it was
How very LA. They're like, ooh.
like I love that you think that, but I'm glad that's what I'm giving off. So then in 2020, in January, I was so fucking tired of probably made $500 that month, and I got fired from every job I ever had other than I used to pro dance, and like that I could keep because I was passionate about it, at least up until the end. But any other job, like when I left pro dance and in between that and like this business, every single job I had fired. I mean, I'm a horrible employee. Like I wouldn't hire me. So I don't blame them. So I in January I was like, I'm done. Like I gotta just fucking like go all in on this. So I probably made $500. February made $500. I'm so fucking tired of being broke. Like I cannot even tell you, Brittany. It was my whole life. Like 14, my parents couldn't pay for dance classes. I had to go pay for dance classes and work at the dance studio and teach to then pay for I was just tired. I was tired of it. So at this point, I like reprogrammed a lot of stuff around self-worth and around worthiness of making money and around money. And so it was kind of like I needed like physical action because of the law of action. You got to take physical action. So I used my intuition and I said, okay, what do I have to do to make like a $10,000 months in my business? This was February 2020. My intuition goes, go to the beach. And I was like, fucking go to the beach. What the fuck? Like, you don't read that in a business book. You don't go to college and learn that. Like, but I knew at that point, I'm 5 years into training my intuition. I know it's fucking right. So I go to the beach, I go to Malibu. I'm laying on the beach and I start to fall asleep. And as I'm falling asleep, I hear a conversation like just a few feet away from me. Nothing to do with anything I do, but it ignited an idea in me. I go, I need to start a mentorship program. I need to have a mentorship program where I teach other people how to use their intuition. I just text all the clients I've ever had. I go, hey, I'm starting a mentorship program, and send an email out to my probably 200 email list, tell my 500 followers on Instagram, because I made a new Instagram account for my old one. And in February, I made $500. In March, I made $5,000. And then June 2020, I went to $11,000. And then it was that or more, minus a few months, like a year into that. But other than that, it was that or more ever since. And then I'd say another pivotal time in business was honestly this past year. I just started hiring people full time. A year ago right now, I only had 2 part-time VAs. Now I have a COO, I have a marketing director, I have a full-time VA, I have another VA. We're hiring on a team intuitive. So I just like completely was like, I know that hiring all these people is going to make the business just pop off. And that was a big physical action I had to take for it to actually pop off. Like, I don't know the exact numbers, but last year we went from, oh my God, like I think we hit maybe 498,000, like $500,000 in revenue last year. We're about to hit 1 million, like literally.
That's amazing.
It's just so quickly we've been able to do that because of changes in my creator field I just recently made around that, hiring all those people. So it's a good mix of it's an equal amount of energetic as it is the physical action part of it too.
So cool. So many more questions. I gotta stop asking questions. I'm just like opening up all these wormholes. I'm like, ooh, squirrel, what's going on over there?
I understand. I understand.
So, okay, so that's amazing. So, for those listening, who are just starting out in this, you really listened to your intuition, you tuned in, you took your gut feelings, your gut instincts, your intuition, and you listened to it. And then you were presented opportunities that you then took small, actionable steps on.
Yes. And what people also don't realize is like, I was building my business before I was building it. So from 19 years old to 24, I was healing myself. I was learning how to tap into my own intuition. I was healing my own shit. That was me building my business. Because how the fuck am I going to read anybody intuitively if I don't have a master over my intuition? How am I going to help anyone heal anything if I don't fucking know or if I'm not healed, right? So what people don't realize too is like they're like, where I want to build my business tomorrow, and they want to go make money tomorrow. And I'm like, no, if you want to build a sustainable, long-lasting, trustworthy brand, you've got to take your time and you've got to become someone that you would want to fucking buy from. Like you've got to become someone that you would trust to lead them in life or whatever it is that you're selling. So yes, I did this in like 4 years from the human eye, but I really did this in like 8 or 9.
I think that's a really great point to make, because no matter what it is you're doing, whether it's internal healing or lessons learned in other careers, you're constantly like, I wouldn't be where I am today without the career I had previously and the lessons learned there and the mistakes I made and the people I met and all of the things that go into that and all of the parts of ourselves that we're changing and growing constantly to basically bring us to where we are at any given moment. So I think that that's extremely important to remember. And especially those people that are like starting out and there's imposter syndrome or how am I ever going to get to that point? It's like, you don't just like wake up one day and you're like, oh, I made $1 million today. Like, no big deal. It's like, you have to literally take the steps, and people don't see all of the steps, right? They come across your podcast and they're like, or they come across my podcast. They're like, oh my God, you have a podcast, you own 2 businesses, you have a course. Like, that's so cool. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff behind that. And I still, and I still don't feel like I made it. I'm like, I'm only the beginning. I'm still working. I'm still growing. So don't be so hard on yourself, people.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
like
that.
seriously, I mean, like everyone says it, but like literally Rome was not built in a fucking day. And it's like if you actually want long-lasting sustainability, you've got to take the time and build the foundation of your creator field to be able to do so. Like you can't just like if I want a pool in my backyard, I can't just dump water into the grass and hope for a pool. Like I gotta dig the hole. I gotta put the concrete in there to be able to hold the pool water, to be able to make the pool water stay there. And you've got to like anything overnight, like one hit wonders of the songs or like anyone who just like pops up overnight, where the fuck did they go? You never hear of them again. So it's like going to the gym and trying to lift a 500-pound weight but never lifting a 10-pound weight. You won't be able to do it. So it's like your creator field, if you don't have your creator field programmed in the right way to be able to hold the density and a good density of the things that you desire, you're either going to get them and then lose them, or you're just not going to get them.
And that's like to give like a real world example. Like they always say like, oh, people win the lottery and then like they lose the next year. And that's a perfect example because
Perfect example.
they just, it's like random, like maybe it's in their soul contract as to why they have to like do that and lose it. But a lot of the times it's literally like they're just not programmed. And a good example of this, which is kind of from what I've learned in Catherine's teachings over the years, is like you always have this energetic baseline. So like once you make $100,000 for a couple of years, it's like, well, that's so easy. Like I always will make $100,000. I'm not worried about that. Now I want to make $200,000. And it's like you never actually dip below where you are energetically, like where that frequency has landed and where you're aligned with. And then all of a sudden you are like, you kind of level up and you level up and you level up. But like people don't see all the levels you've climbed and basically like attuned with. And then, they're only seeing you when you're like at your highest level. And they're like, well, how the hell did you get there? And you're like, no, bro, like I climbed the ladder.
Exactly. And like not everyone, like here's the thing is like the CEOs of the world, it's not ever your talent. It's because there's a lot of talented people that like haven't been able to like crack the code, right? It's not your talent, it's your tenacity. It's literally like that's what makes you get what you desire in life, is the tenacity that you have to keep going, keep what works and then fix what doesn't, and just keep fucking doing it. Like, it's not about talent. There's so many fucking talented people that like, they just let their emotions get in the way, or they give up too soon or whatever. It's what the real talent is like the tenacity and the drive that you need to create whatever you want, both energetically and physically.
Absolutely. And another kind of, I think when you talk about the creator field and kind of honing in and fixing those things, I think a lot of people, in earth school, definitely it's the same process. It's just a lot slower when you're doing it physically, right? Like you might be a CEO who's tried this, tried that, throwing spaghetti at the wall, and it's like something finally works. And you're like, okay. And then you align with that. And then you try the next thing. It's like those are all things you're doing in your creator field. You're like literally doing them like in real life though, versus like the hack.
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly. 100%.
And then when you're done earth school, you're like, oh fuck, there's an easier way to do that. Like, are you kidding me? Why did I have to forget that? And it's like, that's where I'm starting to see like with 3D, 5D. I don't know if I love those terms, but like, that's where I'm starting to see as like it coming out more is like, there's more of these connections where you're like, no, that's the truth. Like I hear it, I know it, I'm going to follow that. And that's how I felt when I started listening to you. Like it was so random because Krista had mentioned you to me, like in the winter, she slept over one night and she showed me your pilot and, which was great. I loved it.
You love
And
it?
yeah, no, it's so good. I'm excited. I
Oh my
really
God.
hope, like off the record, like I really hope it gets picked up. I'm really hoping Netflix picks it up.
Me too. I think it'll be good for
It'll be
sure.
so good.
For
So,
sure.
but she talked to me and then I kind of like, like when things come at the right time and then I like, it kind of faded off and everything. And then I was like listening to Catherine's podcast the other day and I was like, Allie.
Wait, that is wild.
Yeah.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I was
Same.
like, okay, no, I have to like, and then I literally like, as soon as I heard you on her podcast, I went over to your podcast and I've literally binged it. And I was like, I got to have her on mine.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you love it. Like, what an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Thank
it's amazing and it's fresh. Like I'm really enjoying like the content and like the perspective. It's a lot of like what I know to be true. I just really like how you break it down and I find it really clear and easy to follow and like just I don't know, like when you just hear it and you're like, yeah, that's the truth. Like that's how it feels.
Yeah, yeah, that's your intuition. You're just like, oh yeah, your soul probably already has learned it in different life and it just remembers. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that now.
Yes, it's a refresher.
Yes, literally. That
Amazing.
is wild. What a small world.
Right? But it's like it makes sense.
No, it makes sense. Like we were just meant to be in each other's lives for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I feel it. It's good.
Really good. Oh my God, that's so cool. I love that.
And I hear you're also a doggy mom.
I am. I have little honey. She's a little mini golden doodle.
Oh.
Then we have a German my boyfriend's dogs before I met him, but a German Shepherd and then a yellow lab too.
Oh, nice. So you have three.
3.
I have two.
Oh my God,
They're
what
adorable. A pit bull mix and a little pot cake from the Dominican Republic.
stop. That's so
Yes,
cute.
I'll have to show you pictures offline.
Yeah, send me photos.
I'll text you.
Text
Um, okay, so if people are going to start with you, obviously, I would highly recommend starting with the podcast. And I feel one more thing, just I'm not trying to like inflate you too badly, but I find you share so much. Like I really hate when people gatekeep and
I know.
like on the podcast, I'm like I want to take your courses, but I'm also like, if I was someone who like couldn't afford it or whatever the case might be, I'm like, I still feel like I get extreme value from that. So thank you for not gatekeeping and for sharing the goods.
Of course. Like I hate that too. It's like, oh yeah, like you can live a better life, but like go find out. Like
Yeah.
I'm
And
like,
you're like, and I have like listened to people where that's the case. And then I actually take the course and I'm like, there's nothing in here. Like
yeah.
it's fucking sucks. Like I've got my money back from stuff before. I won't name names, but I'm like, no. And I find Catherine's the same. Like I got so much value from her podcast and I was like, and then I took the course and I was like, and it's better.
Yeah, that's usually the trend you see. If you're
Yeah.
going to value the podcast, you're going to get insane value from the course for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I also think about like me, like 6 years ago, I'm like, I wanted to learn all this stuff, but like I wasn't going to be able to just like buy all these courses, all at once or whatever. So yeah, like we have a free 5-day workshop called Get Unfucked. We have a free membership library. We have the podcast for free. That's where I would start is all those free things. And then if you want like a smaller thing, there's I think it's 189 or 200 something. It's a 3-day the Unfucked Intensive is a really good one.
Yes, I saw that when I couldn't find Unfucked Evergreen. I was like, is this something I can do?
You can.
But no, now you've released it. I'm like, ooh, yay. So, okay. So definitely listen to the podcast, see what resonates with you. And then I think probably you'd be guided to one of like your 3 core ones, which is Glow Formula, Unfuck Yourself, and Fuck Dark Forces. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
good. I'll link all of that in the show notes. And is there anything else you want to touch on, talk about before we go today?
Well, oh my gosh, I just feel like we did so much. And I feel like everyone go listen to that like 3 to 4 to 5 times. Because one, I talk really fast. Two, our brains literally within an hour of information being given to us, we only absorb 20% of it. So there's going to be like so many other nuggets in here after listening like 3 or 4 times that you can find. I always listen to something like 3 to 4 times and then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't hear that before. I didn't hear that. Oh, this is making more sense now. So I definitely recommend that for sure.
It's funny how that works because I was listening to something the other day and then it came on again and I didn't like go back to it. And then when I listened to it the second time, I'm like, I listened to this episode already, but like that's new information.
Yes, I know every time that happens. I'm like, wait, I swear to God, I was listening to this.
It's like when you watch a movie like a couple years later and you're like, this is brand new. And you're like, no, I know I've seen this before, but you're like, I'm loving it all over again.
Yeah, you're like, I don't remember that scene. And then it like surprises you.
I know. And I'm like, wait, is it going to change? Are we going to like, maybe I'll watch Game of Thrones again and hope for a better ending.
Yeah.
So bad. Okay. I'm going to link your Insta. You're also huge on TikTok. You're younger than me. I don't get TikTok. I'll try. Like,
I'm like obsessed.
How does this work? It's so bad.
I know. I love it. There's something about on there. I'm like, that one, Instagram doesn't really suck me in. Like, I don't scroll on Instagram. TikTok, I'll be laying in bed at night and I'm like scrolling on TikTok. It's just so entertaining for me.
I don't know how, but my algorithm on TikTok got real dark. And I'm like, it's like so many conspiracy theories and like time travel. And I'm like,
like, I can't be watching this late at night.
Every time I log on, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I need to change it. It's that or like Korean and Japanese people cleaning their houses.
Oh, I love those.
Right? And they're like it's like why?
So satisfying. I love those ones. Yeah.
They're so good. I know. With the squeegees, it's too good. Yeah. Anyways, that's a tangent. I will end there. But thank you so much for your time today. It's just been an absolute pleasure. And you're so fun to watch. You're really engaging to watch. So I enjoyed myself and I'm sure everyone else will as well. This will be on the podcast, but also we have a YouTube channel that we're working on right now. So it'll be on there as well. So you can watch us talk. And yeah, thanks so much for your time.
Amazing. Thank you, Brittany, so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. I always have so much fun when I'm on a podcast with someone that's like so happy to be here also. And I can just tell you're so happy to be here. So that makes me good.
Yay. No, I am. I'm very grateful for your time today. And thank you for saying yes to this. I think people will get like this podcast. Typically, like we definitely get into the woo, but it's like lighter. And it's something I love. I just like don't have people on often that like we can like really get in there. So that was great. I loved it. It was awesome.
Yes, I loved it too. And you're, oh my gosh, you have incredible just drive to you. So I'm just excited to see. I know you've already created so much in your life. I'm excited to see what else you do. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. That's really sweet. I'm excited too. We'll see. We'll see what happens. There's days where I'm like, can I go on?
Totally.
But we all, there's seasons for doing and seasons for resting. So
100%.
Definitely heading back into a doing season. So we'll see where it goes.
Good. It'll be good.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to hit end on this recording.